Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. We are still in fire season and we are heading into the winter storm season. And one question that we frequently get is, are we prepared and how could we all be better prepared? We're going to talk with a colleague from CAL FIRE in just a few minutes, but first we're going to talk about an emergency preparedness program for agriculture called the Ag Pass. We talked about this back in May when the program launched, thanks to efforts by the Agricultural Commissioner's Office. The program is now in full swing and very robust. And we're very pleased to have Juan Hidalgo here, from our Agricultural Commissioner, to talk about how the program launched and its success so far. Hi, Juan. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate having the opportunity to continue to talk about AgPass. Yes, Maya, as you mentioned, this is a new program here in the county of Monterey. We launched it this spring. As a new program, it's going to take a little bit more time to get more information out there to our commercial agricultural operations to encourage more participation in the future. But so far, as a new program, we had 34 operations that have signed up for AgPass this year. And each operation can have up to 3 representatives for that operation. So we issued 62 IDs to each separate representative for the 34 operations. So I think it's a program that is going to continue to build over time. I think as people learn a little bit more about it, some of the requirements, because there are some requirements for people to be able to apply for AgPass, including some safety and fire training, which is part of ultimately getting your AgPass. I'm encouraged by some of the participation that we saw this year with the operations that we have currently. A lot of the questions that we receive from agricultural operations that will help to shape the way AgPass is going to be moving forward in the future here for Monterey County. With AgPass right now, there are some limitations. Right now, only operations within the state responsibility area are able to apply for it. The state responsibility area are those areas of our county where the state of California has fire suppression responsibility. So that would be like in the mountain areas, for example. And so that does leave out quite a few actually agricultural operations that are not within those areas. So over the next few months, one of the things that we're looking at to be able to get our operations better prepared for disasters is inclusion of additional operations and what that looks like. Any operator that is outside of those areas, how can we be more inclusive and give them the opportunity to also be a participant for AgPass and be ready, in case of a fire or a flood like we saw this past winter.
Juan, I'm wondering if you could also talk about the training that went with this. This isn't something where people just sign up, they get a pass. There was a lot more that went on behind the scenes to make these operations prepared to use their AgPass.
Yes, that's correct. So there's a lot of follow-up with the operations to make sure that, first of all, that they understand what the purpose of AgPass is. And this pass is for emergencies, right? It's if you have livestock that you need to evacuate or move from one location to another location because of a fire, so people can understand what that purpose of the AgPass is and how it is to be utilized. And also for people to understand that the AgPass doesn't mean that you get to enter any areas under evacuation orders, any areas that are blocked off, any road access. There's a lot of evaluating of what the emergency is from emergency services that will dictate whether or not it is safe for anyone to be able to enter into those areas. So it's not a free-for-all, I get to go anywhere when there's an emergency pass. This is, there's a lot of information and evaluation that has to happen with a local emergency operations group before those decisions can be made. But it does allow those operations to to be able at some point, hopefully, access their agricultural areas. So part of the training is making sure that people understand what the purpose of the Ag Pass is, how it is supposed to be utilized. And then there's a 4-hour training that everybody has to attend. We had the sheriff, CAL FIRE, the Monterey Fire District, Public Works, all be participants in the training to be able to give agricultural pass operations the information that they need to know in the event of an emergency and when access is granted into those areas that may be under an evacuation order for the safety of those residents. So I think that's important information for everybody that attended those trainings to really take seriously, think about. There was a lot of great information about, generally safety in accessing locations under evacuations and what people should be looking for in case you need to exit those areas immediately if those operations were granted access.
I'm hoping that after we go through some of these questions, you could also respond and describe the program in Spanish for our Spanish language media. But could you talk a little bit about the response that the agricultural representatives who were taking this preparedness course, what was their response to the program? It sounds like they, the ones that signed up really got invested in understanding the value of the Ag Pass.
Yes, I think we had some really good response from the participants attending the training. I think the training was really practical. It had a lot of make sense ideas and discussions around it. There wasn't anything that was so complicated that people couldn't understand. I'm not sure why, they would be making a decision that makes no sense. It was really practical. It really made sense to people. And I think it really helped to understand the Ag Pass participants to how decisions are being made during an emergency. What emergency services and law enforcement is trying to do to keep people safe and how those decisions are made. And I think one of the big takeaways from the people that attended is the fact that, those are decisions that make sense. I understand now why that's being made. So I think that was great. I think that was a really great part of the training because sometimes people are at a loss as to why a decision's been made, and understanding some of the background and the different considerations that law enforcement and CAL FIRE have to take into consideration, I think was really helpful to get people to understand why those decisions are being made.
This also brings the agricultural office into emergency operations because one of the outcomes of this is that there could be agricultural commissioner representatives as part of our emergency operations, depending on the situation. And that's an interesting role for your staff.
It is an interesting role, and I think it's an important one too, because as the Ag Commissioner, we have a lot of contact with many of the agricultural operations in the county. So I think we're in a good position to be able to know who these folks are, how they operate, what commodities or livestock or where they're farming in the county. And it's a good conduit for us to be able to have that engagement and to serve as a liaison, if you would, to represent the interest of agriculture and some of the concerns that we may be seeing in case of disasters. And working with our different county agencies at the Emergency Operations Center, is a great opportunity also to provide some of what we are hearing on the ground when a disaster is unfolding. So I think it's a great opportunity to continue to increase communication between agencies and to increase communication with some of community members that we serve.
And then before we get to these other questions, is there another opportunity for those who didn't sign up this time? Will there be another opportunity for them to sign up for an Ag Pass?
Yes, great question. Yes, so we're looking at opening up Ag Pass again in the spring of 2024. So we'll open up the whole program so people can apply, and that will include scheduling the fire and safety training as part of that program. So spring of 2024 is our target to open up the program and also hopefully get a lot more interest and more growers and agricultural operations signing up for it.
We did have a request to provide some of the overview and information about the Ag Pass in Spanish for our Spanish language media. Are you able to do that? Do a quick change?
I can, yeah.
Maybe do your overview, that initial overview that you gave of the program in Spanish.
Okay. El Pase Agrícola es un programa nuevo aquí en el condado de Monterrey. Se inició esta primavera, en mayo. La idea del Pase Agrícola es permitir acceso a operaciones agrícolas en caso de emergencias. Eso incluye si hay incendios o inundaciones, para tratar de evacuar ganado, si hay ganado en esas secciones, o si alguien tiene un cultivo, para tener la oportunidad de poder regar el cultivo para que no lo pierdan en caso de una emergencia. El pase está limitado. Por cada operación agrícola se permiten 3 participantes, y como parte de ese proceso hay que aplicar para tener el pase agrícola, pero también hay requisitos de entrenamiento. Eso es parte de obtener el pase para poder tener acceso a esas áreas en caso de emergencia, ¿no? Entonces, este año el entrenamiento es de 4 horas, es sobre seguridad, qué es lo que tiene que tomar en cuenta uno cuando se permite acceso a áreas que están bajo de órdenes de evacuación en caso de emergencia, ¿no? Ideas y cosas que la gente tiene que tener en mente cuando tienen acceso a esas áreas para que estén seguros, para que estén protegidos, y qué es lo que tienen que hacer en caso de que cambie la situación para poder salir de esas áreas inmediatamente. Así que como parte del pase agrícola, el entrenamiento es un requisito. Hay algunas limitaciones con el pase agrícola ahorita, y está limitado a esas áreas del condado donde el estado tiene un requisito de proveer servicios de emergencia en caso de incendios. Entonces no incluye todo el condado. Hay secciones del condado donde hay muchos agricultores que ahorita no califican para recibir el pase agrícola. Eso es algo que esperamos cambiar en los próximos meses, tratar de ver cuáles son las oportunidades de incluir a más personas para que puedan participar y tener un pase agrícola en caso de una emergencia. Más información sobre el pase agrícola está en el sitio web de mi oficina, pero generalmente esas son las ideas del pase agrícola, los requisitos. Este año tuvimos 34 operaciones que obtuvieron su pase agrícola, y cada operación puede tener 3 representantes, así que dimos 62 pases a esos representantes de esas operaciones, que contienen, es una identificación que contiene el nombre de ellos y su foto, ¿no? Para poder identificarlos. El próximo pase agrícola, la próxima oportunidad para aplicar se va a abrir la próxima primavera, en el 2024. Así que vamos a abrir el programa otra vez, y ojalá que tengamos más interés de los agricultores. Es un programa nuevo, así que se me imagina que va a haber más interés y más personas queriendo obtener su pase agrícola y queriendo atender el entrenamiento y prepararse en caso de emergencias.
Thank you very much, Juan, for giving us that information 2 times. We also had a question about where can people find out about the Ag Pass? Is there a fact sheet available? I know that the information is on your website, but is there anything else?
Yeah, most of the information is on the website. I'm not sure that we have a fact sheet about it. It's something that we can work on, maybe putting together and maybe putting it up on the website too, just to give people just a brief summary of the pass and the requirements.
I'll see if I can't get that link into the chat for everybody. Now we'd like to loop in Captain Curtis Rhodes from CAL FIRE BEU. We know CAL FIRE was part of the training for our Ag Pass, but there's a lot of information about being prepared and the current situation with our fire season. And thanks very much for joining us to talk about that.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Thank you for having me on. Curtis Rhodes, CAL FIRE Public Information, here speaking on behalf of Chief Nunez today for the San Benito Monterey unit. Just to back up, like you said, we did have a fairly busy summer here in the San Benito Monterey unit. To date, we responded to 430 wildland fire incidents alone. 296 of those were in the state response area. The other 127 were in the local response area. We do still have peak staffing here in the unit. We are mobilizing our fleet as needed as we see events arise. The majority of our fires we did see along the highway road system here in the unit. As you all know, we were fairly inundated with heavy rains last year, which bolstered our fuels along those roadway systems. We had a lot of the light flashy fuels running right up alongside of those roadways. Very easily to get those started when we see vehicles pulling off the side of the roads, and then they transition into those brush models that could impact our communities. So we were busy in and around those roadways. Talking to Chief Nunez this morning before he stepped out to his other meeting, we are working on a plan to transition our staffing to our winter preparedness levels. On November 20th, we will be looking to downstaff from 17 of our Type 3 engines down to 5 of our Type 3 engines. We will maintain all of our aircraft at the Hollister Air Attack Base until further notice. We will be dealing with the Southern Region on a week-by-week case basis when we will be sending those aircraft back to McClellan for their winter maintenance and the rest cycle for the pilots. But until further notice, all of those aircraft are going to remain available for a wildland response throughout the Southern Region. That will be based on rainfall. We do forecast seeing some rain coming up in the next couple weeks. Again, but we've been with what we saw last year. We're going to maintain our training. We're going to be working closely with Department of Emergency Management to keep our drone teams up to date, ready to be mobilized. Our swiftwater rescue teams, our SART teams, all of those folks are going to remain in the unit, available in the event we need to assist our local cooperators or respond to anything mutual aid throughout the region. A couple things to touch on when it comes to winter preparedness. Obviously, we're not out of this yet. We're still seeing fires in the Southern Region. We haven't seen very many here locally, thank God. But recently we've seen a couple thousand acres in the Bakersfield area, Riverside area. The light flashy fuels that we see on the ground and how dense they are, how tall they are this year, really only takes a day or two of sunlight on them. No marine layer influence to impact those, and they're dried out and ready to burn again. So we're continuing our efforts on the public education side, allowing folks the tools in the toolbox at readyforwildfire.gov to continue to prep and defend their homes. Please utilize those as needed. And again, until we see a significant rainfall, we're going to remain at the ready here at the unit level. Last year, we did specifically on the peninsula with the heavy rainfall paired with the wind. We saw a lot of the trees down, power lines down, heavy rain and flooding in the Pajaro, Watsonville area, which kept us mobilized. So just to remind folks at home, now is a good time when you have those hazard trees that may be compromised or shallow root systems and things of that nature. Go ahead and get people out to mitigate those issues before we see the winter impact come through our communities here. It's going to keep your home safer. It's going to keep the folks that need to evacuate out of harm's way, keeping those roads maintained and open for us first responders that need to get in and out. And again, once these storms hit, all of these vendors that we utilize outside of the emergency system tend to be very, bogged down with the amount of calls that they're dealing with. So there's no better time to prepare your house, not only for wildland fires, but for the winter preparedness aspect of things. And a couple of bullet points just to touch on the winter preparedness stuff. Ensure your heating equipment is good and working order and have it inspected regularly. I would have folks come in. This is a good time to check your ducts, have your chimneys cleaned and swept in the event you're going to start utilizing your stoves or wood burning stoves or chimneys. We tend to see a uptick in structural firefighting response this time of year, November, December, and January, as folks tend to use those aspects to warm their houses, and we see fires start and get into the attic spaces or what have you. Touching on that aspect, there's never a better time. We always say spring forward and fall back is a great time to check on your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in your homes. Ensure that you're checking those regularly. Make sure that they're maintained. You can vacuum the dust out of them, replace the batteries. But again, those are in place for the safety of your family and to warn you early on in the event you have an emergency at home. Have a fire extinguisher on hand and know how to use it. A couple great places that we would like to see people have those is one in the garage and one in the kitchen setting. So ensure that those are maintained. You should be replacing those every 10 years. Monthly, I would just check and make sure that they're charged, ready to work, the needle's in the green. Remember the acronym PASS, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. And again, your safety is our #1 priority. Exit the home, utilize the 911 system, get us coming. Even if you don't see fire and it's only smoke, the earlier that you can initiate the emergency response system and get us on the road to assist you and your family, the better. Touching on emergency escape plans, go through those with your family and practice them regularly, especially if you have young children in the home. And as we saw last year with the winter response, stock up on the emergency supplies now, including blankets, flashlights, non-perishable foods, and batteries. As we saw last year, folks had to evacuate their homes or shelter in place. A lot of these products tend to be on back order or hard to get for some folks. So while we see sunlight out today, the roadways are open, the stores are open. Get out your supply kit, make sure everything is in good working order, build a list of things that you might need and go take care of those early on before you need them. Be cautious of using the space heaters in and around the home. Make sure all of them have different safety guidelines. They should be on the packaging or boxing that comes with those. Make sure you're utilizing those efficiently and cautiously. And also, while we're talking about people that are warming their homes with different fire devices, make sure that you properly know how to dispose of the ashes from fireplaces and wood burning stoves as well. We saw quite a few fires along the peninsula last year of people who thought their fireplace might be out or disposed of the ashes outdoors away from things. The trash cans catch on fire. They might start some vegetation or other flammable assets on fire, which could then transition back into the home and put your family at risk. Last, more importantly, and I think is one of the most crucial, is staying informed about the weather forecast, being prepared for the power outages and cold weather. Our #1 go-to, even though we have our own social medias and we utilize the pulse point notification system here countywide, #1 is to follow the Department of Emergency Management, as they tend to be the hub for all the local cooperators that are working in the county. We tend to go to them to put out messaging. We tend to follow in place with them and the Monterey County Sheriff's Department. But again, we push everybody to follow their social media, stay up to date on what information that they're putting out. When it comes to the weather briefing, take it seriously, take the evacuation notices seriously. They do a great job of getting out there, really understanding what's going on and putting that message out there early on to keep your family from being in a hazardous situation. So we tend to fall right behind them. You could follow the CAL FIRE social media, you could follow Monterey County SO, but #1, I would say go and follow DEM or Department of Emergency Management, as they're really putting out key information early on for everybody's safety.
Thanks for that terrific rundown. Now you just write a book, right? You've got it all together. If there is anyone with any questions for Curtis, go ahead and you can either raise your hand, you can put it in chat, you can just shout out
Just shout it out.
question.
I'm here for you guys. Hopefully Chief lets me come and participate more often.
I'm not hearing anybody shout up, so let me ask you, we're really backing up from fire season to winter storm season. It seemed like we had these seasons. We don't seem to have those seasons anymore. How is that affecting CAL FIRE operations?
That's correct. And we've actually looked to transition with our new employees to get out of the mindset of being a seasonal firefighter or having that seasonal terminology in your brain. We call it fire year now. As you know, last year we did see a significant wildland fire in the month of January. It was the off of Corona Road down there. We saw 600 acres burn in the middle of winter in a brush model. So again, when we go out and do public education now, as you know, we had zone 1 and zone 2 previously. We're going to be looking to implement zone 0 here in the future. We continue to push this messaging to the folks that it's never ending. You should never stop preparing your structures when it comes to structure defense and home hardening. Keep the vegetation away. Now with zone 0, keeping those flammable fencing, trash cans, wood piles, things of that nature away from the structure, just to prevent anything transitioning from the wildland urban interface into your home and putting your family in danger. So really, this is a year-round gig for you folks at home to stay prepared. It's a year-round gig for us as CAL FIRE and your local fire department and state fire department. We continue now to keep our helicopters on year-round. For those of you that didn't know, our helicopter here in the region of San Benito, Monterey is one of the 3 helicopters in the state that is capable for night flying now. So we can fly that helicopter 24 hours a day, utilizing night vision capability, and they have the ability to conduct rescues, do water dropping, and things of that nature. So as a fire department in the whole, we're looking to transition into year-round firefighting, whether it be the wildland urban interface or transitioning into the winter preparedness like we supported last year here in the county.
Well, we hope not to have as busy a year this coming winter season as we did last year. Last year was certainly one for the record books. But we all feel safer knowing that you're there, and also we can all feel safer by just taking a minute and doing some of these tips and activities that will really just help us all be better prepared. Chris, thanks very much for joining us to run down these important topics, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you. All right, moving on to our next topic now. Each year, our Parks Department is able to provide grants for local wildlife safety and improvement programs. These are projects that can range from distributing non-lead ammunition to local residents, to protect birds, to removing nets that can entangle sea life, and planting butterfly habitat. The application for this time period is now open, and Bryan Flores, our Chief of Parks, is here to tell us about the propagation grants. Hi, Bryan.
Hi, Maya. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'd like to just briefly chat about the Monterey County Fish and Game Commission's propagation grant program. And this is something that is annual. And I'll give you a little rundown of the commission itself. And so in 1870, the Board of Fish Commissioners was appointed at the state level. And it's actually, California has the oldest fish and wildlife protection agency in the United States. It actually predates a lot of our federal programs and departments. And in Monterey County has one of the oldest fish and game commissions in the state. It was originally founded in 1947 as the Monterey County Fish and Game Committee. And in 1981, it was reformed as the commission. The commission has 15 members, three members from each supervisorial district, and they act in an advisory capacity to the Board of Supervisors, advising not only on the propagation grant program, but also any fish and wildlife issue that may come up, including state and federal legislation. So the propagation grant program is set forth by the state Fish and Game Code sections 13,000 through 13,103. And that states that fines and settlement monies that are taken in by Fish and Wildlife, by the wardens. So those could be fines from, not fishing without a license, or, things like poaching, illegal hunting and fishing, commercial fishing boats that are operating in areas that are off limits within the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, So whenever fines are assessed or settlements occur within courts, the county gets a significant portion of the fine and settlement money to redistribute throughout the community for propagation programs and projects that support fish and wildlife. And our grant amounts typically range in the $2,000 to $5,000 range, but they could be upwards to $10,000. The greatest grant that was given out was a couple of years ago to the Monterey-based salmon and trout program for emergency repairs to the Kingfisher Flats hatchery in Big Creek up in Santa Cruz County, and that was for $14,000. We have an annual budget of $40,000, and we can go higher than that, or for emergency projects, or a second round of grant funding if the Board of Supervisors wishes to approve that. And as Maya mentioned, some examples of the propagation grant programs and projects, and these are either with community organizations, schools, or just individuals. So we had some for equipment for whale entanglement and cleanup of ghost fishing equipment in the Monterey Bay by the Marine Life Studies group, transportation for students to engage in the O'Neill Sea Odyssey program, free non-lead ammunition through the Ventana Wildlife Society for condor and predator protection from lead ammunition, the Lazy Arrows Outdoor Adventures down in San Luis Obispo County and southern Monterey County holds an annual youth and women's pheasant hunt and outdoor and hunting education program. They're in their 27th year this year, and our propagation grants are one of their main funding avenues for that. We also have programs from the Monterey-based salmon and trout program for youth education and salmon enhancement. A couple years ago, we were able to help the group release 160,000 Chinook salmon smolt into the bay. We have a project from the Seaside High School Ocean Defenders Club to put water bottle refill stations on campus. The International Bird Rescue Association for rehab of injured birds in the Monterey Bay area. The Monterey Audubon Society for binoculars and other equipment for bird identification. CSUMB typically applies for projects for mesopredator research near the CSUMB campus and Fort Ord areas, Pacific Grove Museum for their Junior Naturalist Club, and then a host of deer, mountain lion, and coyote tagging and research projects to see what the impacts are on wildlife and our pets. In addition, wildlife water guzzlers have been installed with these funds on both public and private property. And kind of a neat one that we funded a couple years ago was with the Salinas Surf Club to bring underserved youth from the Salinas Valley to the ocean. They teach them how to surf, but they also wanted to get them involved in wildlife protection. So they took them out on a commercial fishing charter and got the kids fishing. And many of those kids had never even seen the ocean before, let alone be on a boat, miles off the coast. So it's a really great program. I'm happy to support that through our Parks Division, Public Works Facilities and Parks Department. And the application period is currently open. I'm asking for the media's help in getting the word out. We typically only have, probably less than 10 to 12 applicants. And we try to give out that $40,000, and it would be great if we could really get the word out. We have ads in the local print media, but if some of the media outlets on television and radio could pick this up and let people know to come to the county website to apply. The application period closes November 17th at 5 p.m. There are some requirements, but it's compared to other grant programs that are administered by the state and by the federal government, this is very, very basic to apply for. It's a couple of pages of some documentation and then a short presentation at our Fish and Game Commission meeting in December. So if there's any questions, that wraps up my report here.
Thank you very much, Bryan. And if there are any questions for Bryan, you can put them in chat. You can raise your hand. You can just, shout them out. While we're waiting for other people who might ask questions, would this be an ideal type of program for a service group I'm thinking Girl Scouts, Campfire Girls, other community groups to come up with a project that they could all do together.
Yeah, most definitely. We're lucky enough that we're able to partner with some of the scouting groups in the area and to do various park projects. But one that we're working on right now with the Fish and Game Commission in association with local Boy Scouts troop is getting bat and owl habitat boxes installed in our parks, as well as installing some wildlife water guzzlers at Toro Park. And so, yeah, a great project for youth, into youth groups to get into. And like I said, it's a fairly easy process to apply for. So yeah, most definitely.
So we put the link in the chat to the page that has, access to the grant. And then we also have a great snippet about information about it for people who can look at it and kind of share that. More information, they can contact you at
Yeah,
Park?
most definitely. I did send you, Maya and Nick, a one-sheet description of what I just said. And so feel free to send that out to the media and most definitely call me. My desk line rolls to my cell phone, so I'm always available.
Thank you. And then we're really looking forward to seeing what grants go out. Hopefully we can generate some more interest and get some folks interested in doing some really great work to support wildlife habitat and our wild friends.
Yep, most definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryan. Our next topic, last month, we talked about the importance of inspections for businesses which provide body art services. Staff from our health department have been conducting those inspections, and there is now a list of facilities which have passed. This is helpful for consumers, and we're very pleased to have Angeline Sue from our County of Monterey Health Department Environmental Health Bureau to talk about the results of the inspections. Hi, Angeline.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, can you all see this?
Yes, we can.
I'm a registered environmental Monterey County Environmental Health Bureau, Solid Waste Management Services. We regulate and inspect a variety of facilities, but I'm here today to talk about body art, which includes tattooing, piercing, and permanent cosmetics such as eyebrow microblading or lip blush. My team is working toward in terms of health and safety to both the body art community and the members of the public who want to receive services. Toward this effort, we are refining the inspection process to allow facility owners to better plan for their annual inspections, operators to anticipate deadlines for compliance, and to provide the public a practical means to know where to receive services from a compliant body art facility. Well, a list of compliant body art facilities and operators who have of California's Safe Body Art Act, our November 3rd deadline. Compliance is passing the annual inspection or re-inspection with no violations and payment of including the late fees and penalties. The compliant list can be found on our website as shown here, www.mtyhd.org/body art.
Hey,
and when you get to our webpage,
I'm
this
sorry
is
to
a
interrupt you,
screenshot of what the
Angeline, but
webpage should look like. You'll see that the first link here will has a link to. Yes.
Angeline, you're breaking up. I'm wondering, while you're talking with the screen on, why don't you turn your camera off and see if we can improve your Wi-Fi?
Okay, sure. Okay, hopefully that's better.
Yes, much
so
better.
As I was saying, the webpage here, okay, perfect. The webpage here has the link to the list of compliant body art facilities and operators. Facilities and operators turn to compliance must retain their inspection report indicating compliance, their valid health department permit, and their operator card with the current sticker as proof of compliance. The compliance list will be updated again on the week of January 1st, 2024, and again approximately 2 to 3 times a year after that. We encourage the community to utilize this list when seeking out body art services, and I thank you all for your time today. Any questions?
So you were breaking up at the very beginning of your presentation. You were freezing a little bit. I'm wondering if you could go over the first couple of points that you talked about so that we could capture it. And I know we want to leave your camera off, which we don't normally do, but we do want to hear your important points.
Yeah, so some of the things that I discussed in the beginning of my presentation is just what body art is exactly. Body art includes tattooing, piercing, and permanent cosmetics, such as eyebrow microblading and lip blush. The reason why we're doing this is that my team is working to provide a higher level of service in terms of health and safety to both the body art community and those of the public who wish to receive body art services. Toward this effort, we are refining our inspection process to allow facility owners to better plan for their annual inspections, operators to anticipate deadlines for compliance, and to provide the public a practical means to know where to receive services from a compliant body art facility.
Angeline, I also want you talked about these inspections were complete and there is a list for people who are looking for the services. What should they be looking for to know if their provider has passed their inspection?
Yeah, so they can check the list that we're putting out to see if the facility that they're going to be receiving those body art services from, and the operator specifically, if they're on that list. If they're not, if a facility or operator has returned to compliance after inspection report, noting that there were no violations on that inspection. And then they should also be able to provide their current health permit from the health department and their operator card with a current sticker as proof of compliance.
I'm wondering if you could also repeat the part about when we have this one list and we have online available the people who have passed inspection. There's going to be updates to this list, and when would those be?
Yes, so our next update to this list will be the week of January 1st, 2024. And after that, we'll be updating our list approximately 2 to 3 times a year.
Thank you very much, and thanks for working with us through some of the Wi-Fi issues. Are there any questions for Angeline about the health inspections or the results of those inspections? I am not seeing any questions. So for people who want to find out about the operators, they can go to their operator or provider and ask to see their certificate or their card. They can also check the website. Those are the 3 best things for the consumers to do.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you. And thanks very much for giving us this update. The list is pretty extensive. So it sounds like a lot of the operators really wanted to comply and be up to date on their health inspection.
Yes, we had a pretty good success rate on getting facilities and operators into compliance, and we're very excited to be putting out this list highlighting that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angeline, for giving us an update on that. And it's great work for the staff of the health department to get all of these inspections done.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the Wi-Fi issues again.
Oh, that's okay. It happens. Thanks for working with us. We just roll with it here at the briefing. Thanks everyone for joining us on the briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week, and we'll see you then.
Thank you, everybody.